Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open at the power station on the outskirts of the well-named town of Pahuta. The place is experiencing some issues, so the electrician Willis assumes that it's because of the new radio station coming online. He finds one of the power lines covered in a crystallized moldy substance when suddenly a UFO descends and belly molds the human. Nearby, the reporter Lisa covers the opening of the new radio station KDUL. It has exclusive broadcasting rights to use the frequency 666, and the owner Vernon Locknut expects nothing bad to happen. He's hired a controversial DJ called Dangerous Dan, who's chained himself up in the studio playing the same polka album on repeat. Various people like Peanut call in trying to guess the right combination to the lock so that they can win a car and end the annoying French horns. We see a few notable bimbos, including Cookie, who works at Peanut's truck stop, and cheerleader Bunny, who loves the show and keeps calling in. Her combination is wrong, so Bunny goes back to what I guess is symbol practice, where she's creeped on by the simply credited goofy guy. The winner of the car just so happens to be Lisa's anchor Flip Humble, so she assumes that this is all just some sort of scam. Dan's happy to be free and finally plays some good music before trying to convince Lisa that it was merely a coincidence. It doesn't take much for the smooth talker to convince the overly single Lisa that he's one of the good guys, or may God strike him down otherwise. Just then it appears like the big guy takes him up on that offer, but it's only an outdated special effect landing in the distance. The news reporter is overjoyed to be part of a story about aliens, but oblivious Dan had his back turned, so he didn't see the UFO. He makes Sheriff Hickman believe that Lisa's only doing this for attention, so they spiral back into another argument about nothing. Eventually Dan confesses that he actually did bribe Flip to send Lisa over, so she isn't happy about it and storms off. Dan, the stand-up guy, returns to his studio to wait for dinner to be delivered and continues talking crap on the Pahutian airways. Sometime later, the cameraman returns and sees the silhouette of a large scrotum-headed man standing in a field. It's an alien called Cosmo that uses a space wand to make him disappear just before Corky comes outside to find his cheeseburger left in the cold. The engineer goes inside, where Dan publicly humiliates Lisa on the radio about seeing the UFO because she rejected his advances. That will surely get him laid with the reporter, who goes to the power station where the sheriff questions the electrician. Willis claims to have been slimed out by an alien rod, which sounds kinky until you realize that he's just talking about Cosmo's wand. They take him to the hospital, speculating if it's cooties or pea soup, but Dr. Payne says that it's the worst case of jock itch that he's ever seen. Despite her boss telling her to drop the story, Lisa follows them, hoping to get information about the UFO. She finds Nurse Ginger listening to Dan as he receives more phone calls from Pahutians claiming to have seen the lights in the sky. Just then Cosmo and his robot sidekick show up at the radio station, causing all of the equipment to malfunction. They blast through the door, and Dan, who claims that UFOs don't exist, is forced to acknowledge that there's an alien taking over his station. He recounts the slow invasion over the radio, but everyone listening just assumes it's some kind of prank at Lisa's expense. Ginger cackles away at the far-out descriptions as the alien pokes around for a bit before setting up his organic DJ equipment. With a wave of his wand, Cosmo sprays a gas into the air that knocks Dan and Corky out, only to wake up in an unrecognizable studio. The alien has covered the place in the green to look just like home and sets up his women collectors in the corner of the room. Cosmo rules and his robot lump controls, but that's just depicted as the alien beating the assistant over the head with his wand until it follows orders. The boys think they're trying to phone home just like E.T. until noticing Cookie displayed on one of the alien's monitors. Cosmo uses the device to hone in on the waitress, causing her to hallucinate a band walk into Peanut's truck stop and begin performing. The whole movie is scored by Blue Öyster Cult, yet for some reason they have these lesser-known bands playing the featured songs. It appears to everybody else like Cookie's just dancing without any music as she gets up on the counter to Coyote Ugly the scene. She's turned into radio waves so that back at the station she can be shrunken down to the size of a Barbie doll and stuffed into a container. As the alien gawks at Cookie like an animal, Corky tries to escape the station, but Cosmo zaps him with his wand like a cattle prod. He doesn't use it on Dan because he still needs him, and instead just plays some distracting music for the town. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Dr. Payne removes the alien spunk from Willis while Ginger switches on the radio. It causes what they've already removed to start dancing to the music, so they call up the sheriff, but he's over at Peanuts. A dozen patrons tell him that they saw Cookie get abducted by aliens, but Hickman just accuses them of listening to too much radio. That is until he goes over to the hospital himself to check out this dancing snot and unloads his revolver on it. Dan pieces it together that Cosmo is using the music to abduct Earth women, so he warns everyone to stop listening immediately. It doesn't matter that Corky is now a pile of mold in the corner of the studio, they still think it's all a hoax. Bunny calls up the station, so Dan warns her that she's being targeted by the alien's little monitor abductor thing. Another band appears to seduce the girl into dancing while the rest of the band practice just thinks she's having a manic episode. She dances around with the goofy guy to a song called Touching Myself while in reality he's just sitting there stroking his trombone. Not sure how this works, but once Bunny is sweaty enough to be abducted, Cosmo teleports his new captive into a bottle alongside Cookie. Somehow Hickman still thinks the whole thing is a hoax even after he just plugged a full load of the alien slime. Lisa is reporting on her cameraman going missing when he comes up and tells Flip that this is just a basic hostage situation. He accuses Dan of kidnapping these people and brings in a battering ram to try break through the door. Dan warns the sheriff that the alien will kill them just like he did poor Corky, but Hickman thinks he's issuing threats. The two batty boys bust some of the green stuff, getting it on themselves, and by nightfall they've begun to get overgrown. Dan looks at the monitor to see Ginger as the alien's next target, and we get another 5-minute music video. It cuts between her hallucination and the nurse dancing on Dr. Payne while he tries to operate on Willis. When she's lubed up enough to fit inside a bottle or whatever, Cosmo teleports her back to the station where she's left alongside her peers. This must be the most important nurse in the whole town because Payne shows up at the radio station alongside Peanut looking for their employees. The goofy guy is also there in a crowd of people as Dan pleads with Locknut to cut the power, but he refuses because of the ratings. Dan tries to make a plea for the public to quit listening by swearing at callers, but it just causes the ratings to go even higher. It's revealed that Dan has been infected with the fungus when he picks up a utility knife to use on the alien. He finds some germicide, so tests it out on his hand, and wouldn't you know it, something that looks like mold doesn't like it. He sprays it on Corky's cocoon, but before we see if the engineer is still alive, Dan confronts Cosmo with his weapon of choice. It seems to have an effect, but without doing any damage. The spray can quickly runs out and the alien's just left mildly upset. Cosmo would have killed him by now if it wanted him dead, but instead demands that Dan keep talking into the radio. He realizes that the alien is using his voice to aim his machine because the image of Lisa gets clearer the louder he speaks. Cosmo orders Lump to abduct the reporter, but Bunny Stalker comes up to ask for an autograph and gets bottled up instead. Unhappy with his error, the alien destroys the little robot while Dan just continues to report on everything that's happening. He knows that this allows Cosmo to aim the device and swiftly replace the kid with Lisa, so Dan should probably just stop talking. It's only when his wannabe woman is in danger does Dan decide to fight back and manages to wrestle the wand away from Cosmo. As they're fighting, Lisa broadcasts the action, but because of her tiny size the image is too small, which I don't think is how that works. During this time, Flip has been talking about getting his fake competition winnings before Dan gets locked up. He drives down to Pahuta and is somehow allowed to shout orders to federal agents while setting up to report on the scene. During their fight, Dan whips out the utility knife and slashes the alien's spacesuit, causing the atmosphere to leak out. Cosmo emerges a lean green mother from outer space, propping itself up on two mechanical legs, but I think the head gave it away. A still living Corky crawls out of his cocoon and helps hold back the cosmic plant while Dan returns the girls to their normal sizes. He misses Bunny for whatever reason while they arm themselves with convenient cans of disinfectant from the nurse's trolley. They all spray Cosmo in the face until he grows too weak to fight back, so uses his teleportation machine to retreat. With the group victorious, they somehow blow a hole in the door and emerge from the station to the relief of the people outside that Dan hadn't murdered them. His bravery has Lisa all over him, and it seems like the only person who actually died was Moon Hashimoto, who received a family name but no justice. They all go back to thinking it's just a publicity stunt, and Lisa's footage won't help because the camera retained its tiny size. Flip tries to interview the hero of the day, but Dan tells him to flip off when suddenly the ground begins to shake. In full view of the public, the alien spaceship departs, vindicating the survivors that this was not just a hoax. However, Bunny Stalker reminds us that we still have to restore his future girlfriend to her original size. And the movie ends.